Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Galactic database labels Earth. Do not even think about it. Commander Z Vex drummed his four fingers against the shimmering console, the rhythmic tapping echoing through the otherwise silent command bridge of the Galactic survey vessel Boundless Curiosity. His purple skin gleamed under the ambient lighting as he scrolled through the endless catalog of planetary designations. The ship's AI had just completed its standard sweep of the next sector slated for potential resource extraction. "Computer," Vex called out with a voice that sounded like gravel being poured through a brass instrument. "Show me the next highest resource concentration in Sector 8742. The holographic display flickered, then expanded to reveal a modest solar system with 8 planets orbiting a rather ordinary yellow star. The third planet from the center glowed with an enticing blue-green hue. Vex leaned forward, his double-lidded eyes widening with interest. "What do we have here?" "A water world with abundant minerals. And is that free-roaming oxygen?" "Hey, talk about a jackpot." Vex chuckled, already calculating the bonuses his crew would receive for such a find. As he reached to tag the planet for immediate investigation, bold red text suddenly flashed across his screen, accompanied by a warning klaxon that made him nearly jump out of his exoskeleton. "Warning. Classification extreme danger. Do not APPO. Odyssey. Repeat. Do not even think about it." Vex blinked rapidly, his secondary eyelids clicking with confusion. "What in the blazing nebulas?" "Computer, explain this classification." The synthetic voice responded with unusual hesitation. "Planet designation. Earth, Sol system. Classification. Absolute restricted zone. Specific reason for classification. Restricted." Vex laughed, a sound like sand being poured on metal. "I'm the blasted survey commander. Override restriction. Authorization Vex Gamma 9. Override denied. Classification authorized by Galactic High Command. All information regarding planet Earth restricted to supreme clearance only." Vex slumped back in his hover chair, which adjusted automatically to his shifted weight. 23 stellar cycles surveying the outer reaches, and he'd never encountered a complete information blackout. Planets were quarantined for biological hazards, yes, avoided for astronomical dangers, certainly, but a total classification lockdown. Unheard of. His curiosity piqued beyond professional interest now. Vex quickly glanced around the empty bridge before pressing his palm against a hidden scanner beneath his command console. "Computer," he whispered, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial rumble. "Access my personal channel to Lieutenant Commander Krell in data analysis, and keep it off the official logs." "Connecting," the computer replied. Connection established. Vex's mandibles clicked with anticipation. "Krell, it's Vex. I need you to dig up everything you can about a planet called Earth. And keep it quiet. Something strange is happening, and I intend to find out what terrifies High Command so much about a little blue world in the middle of nowhere." Lieutenant Commander Krell's research lab resembled an organized explosion of technology. Data screens flickered across every available surface, creating a kaleidoscope of light that reflected off his glossy black exoskeleton. When Vex entered, Krell barely looked up, all 6 of his arms simultaneously typing, adjusting equipment, and sifting through physical records. "Commander on deck," Krell muttered without pausing his work, his voice buzzing with the distinct accent of someone born in the mineral-rich asteroid belts of Tardius. "At ease, Lieutenant," Vex replied, securing the door behind him with his personal encryption code. "Tell me you found something on that mysterious blue marble." Krell finally stopped typing, 4 of his hands coming to rest, while 2 continued idly fiddling with a stress relief cube. "Oh, I found something all right. The question is whether you really want to know what I found." Vex pulled up a hovering chair and sat directly across from Krell. "Try me." Krell's mandibles twitched in what passed for a grimace among his species. First off, breaking into these files nearly triggered 17 different security protocols. Had to route through 3 abandoned communication satellites and spoof my access credentials as Admiral Thorne himself. Cut to the chase, Krell. What's so special about Earth? Krell tapped a sequence on his primary console, and the surrounding screens darkened except for one central display. Earth, third planet from star designated Sol, inhabited by a species called humans, and they are problematic. Problematic how? Vex leaned forward, intrigued. According to limited observation records, humans appear utterly unremarkable at first glance. Carbon-based, bipedal, average height about 2/3 of yours. Primitive technology, by our standards. Krell brought up a series of images showing the creatures in question. They've barely managed rudimentary space travel within their own system. Vex frowned. So why the extreme classification? Because, Krell said, his voice dropping to a near whisper, every civilization that has attempted contact with Earth has either disappeared entirely or returned with catastrophic losses. And here's the real kicker. He paused dramatically. The humans defeated them all using technology centuries behind their attackers. A silence fell between them, broken only by the soft hum of the lab equipment. That's impossible, Vex finally said, mandibles clicking rapidly in disbelief. The Drax Armada, remember them? Most feared military force in the Cygnus Arm about 3 centuries ago. Krell pulled up an ancient record. They sent a conquest fleet of 50 ships to Earth. Only one returned, severely damaged, with a crew driven to madness, babbling about demons in metal suits who boarded their vessels. Vex stared at the screen, his professional skepticism warring with growing unease. There has to be a rational explanation. Some environmental factor we're missing, maybe. Maybe, Krell said, not sounding convinced. But there's more, much more. Reports of humans surviving conditions that would kill any reasonable species, accounts of them continuing to fight with injuries that should be immediately fatal, and this. He brought up one final screen showing statistical analyses. Their adaptability rating is off the charts. They evolve their tactics, their technology, even their bodies at rates that defy prediction algorithms. Vex sat back, absorbing this information with growing fascination. I need to see for myself. Krell, can you access any direct observation feeds of Earth? Current ones, not historical. Already tried. All direct monitoring was discontinued 80 years ago by direct order of the Supreme Council. A file note simply states, for the safety of the galaxy, Earth is to remain unobserved and undisturbed. Dramatic, right? Krell chuckled nervously. Vex's eyes narrowed with determination. Then we'll just have to start observing again, won't we? If we're really doing this, Krell muttered, glancing nervously at the sealed lab door, then you should at least know what we're potentially dealing with. He activated a secure holographic projector. 3 local days, Krell said flatly. The Zephyrian commander's final log entry simply states, they learn too quickly. Quarantine is recommended. The display shifted forward several thousand years, showing a different encounter. This time, a trading vessel from the Mercantile Alliance of Proxima. Commercial explorers, Krell explained. They thought they could establish trade with humans for Earth's abundant resources, offered advanced medicine and limited technology in exchange. The recording showed the initial trade proceeding peacefully, but then skipped ahead to scenes of human nations warring with each other, using variations of the gifted technology modified into horrifying weapons. 3 local years after contact, humans had weaponized medical nanobots into a planet-wide plague that nearly wiped them out, Krell said. They survived, of course. They always survive. The projector displayed a final recording, this one more recent and clearer than the others. A scientific vessel not unlike their own boundless curiosity orbiting Earth. Research mission from the Arcturian Science Directorate. Just 2 centuries ago, Krell said. They thought proper study would reveal what previous expeditions had missed. The recording showed the vessel deploying observation drones to Earth's surface, then abruptly switching to emergency internal cameras as alarms blared. Humans in crude pressure suits were cutting through the hull, having somehow reached orbit in vessels cobbled together with technology that shouldn't possibly function. The Arcturians had been broadcasting their observations back to their homeworld, Krell explained. The humans intercepted the transmissions, decoded them, located the ship, and launched a counter-mission in 7 local days. Vex stared at the final image, a human face pressed against a ship camera, smiling in what could only be described as predatory satisfaction. That, said Krell, shutting down the projector, is when the Supreme Council issued the "don't even think about it" classification. Commander Vex paced the length of his private quarters, pausing occasionally to stare out the viewport at the distant speck that was the Sol system. 3 days had passed since his clandestine meeting with Krell, and sleep had become an elusive luxury. Computer, privacy mode, authorization Vex Delta 7, he commanded, his voice rough from lack of rest. Privacy mode engaged, Commander. All recordings and monitoring suspended. Vex moved to his personal console and activated a secure channel. Krell, are you alone? The analyst's face appeared, looking as exhausted as Vex felt. Secure in my quarters, Commander. Have you made a decision? Yes, Vex replied, lowering his voice despite the privacy protocols. We're sending a probe. A strangled sound came from Krell's throat sacs. Commander, with all due respect, have you completely lost your neural functions? You saw the records. Every interaction with humans ends in disaster. Vex's mandibles clicked in determination. Those were direct interventions. We're talking about a single stealth observation probe. Latest generation, quantum shielded. Humans won't even know it's there. That's what the Arcturians thought, Krell muttered, but his opposition was weakening. Scientific curiosity was, after all, their species-defining trait. How would we even deploy it without alerting High Command? The moment we alter course toward Earth. We don't alter course, Vex interrupted. We launch during our scheduled mineral survey of the asteroid belt in the neighboring system. The probe has enough range to reach Earth from there. Krell's eyes narrowed. You've already planned this out down to the microcycle. Vex confirmed without a hint of remorse. I've been running simulations for 3 days. The probe can reach Earth, observe for 48 hours, and return with data before anyone notices it's missing from inventory. And if we're caught? Krell asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Vex's face hardened. As ranking officer, I'll take full responsibility. Your record will remain clear. That's not what I meant. And you know it, Krell snapped. If humans detect the probe, if they trace it back to us. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them, the possibilities too disturbing to voice aloud. The design specs of the TX-917 probe were just updated last month, Vex finally said. Not even our current adversaries in the Omega Quadrant can detect them. Humans are centuries behind us technologically. So were the Zephyrians compared to humans, Krell retorted. Didn't help them much, did it? Vex slammed a fist on his desk, frustration breaking through his usually composed demeanor. We are scientists, Krell. Our entire purpose is to understand the unknown. How can we justify quarantining an entire species without fully comprehending why? The analyst sighed, his resistance crumbling. When do we deploy? Tomorrow, 600 hours, Vex replied, relief evident in his voice. I've already modified the TX-917 with enhanced recording capabilities and transplanted its transponder signature to match routine asteroid sampling units. If anyone checks the logs, it'll look like standard geological analysis. Krell's face displayed a complex mixture of excitement and dread. I'll prepare the secure data storage for when it returns. And Vex, if this goes wrong. It won't. Vex assured him with more confidence than he felt. We observe, we record, we retrieve. No contact, no intervention. Just pure scientific data on the most dangerous species in the galaxy. As the communication ended, Vex gazed once more at the distant star system. Soon, they would have answers, and surely understanding these humans would prove them to be less formidable than ancient records suggested. Surely. Signal confirmed. TX-917 probe on approach vector, Krell announced, his voice barely containing a mixture of relief and excitement. The probe had been silent for 48 hours, exactly as planned to avoid detection. Now, as it re-established connection with the boundless curiosity, both aliens felt the weight of anticipation. Commander Vex hovered over Krell's shoulder in the sealed lab, watching as the data download progress bar crawled across the screen. Status report. Any sign of detection or tampering? None, Krell confirmed, running diagnostic checks. External shell integrity at 100%. Data stack says no breach attempts. No scan signatures detected against its shields. Looks like your gamble paid off, Commander. Vex released a hissing breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Begin data analysis. Priority on defense capabilities, technological development, and social structures. The screens around them, illuminated with thousands of images, video recordings, intercepted communications, and atmospheric samples. Both scientists fell silent as the sheer volume of information resolved into comprehensible patterns. This can't be right, Krell muttered after several minutes, his fingers dancing across interfaces to cross-reference findings. Commander, look at their military technology. Vex leaned closer to examine the display, his confusion growing. These readings don't make sense. They have nuclear fission and fusion capabilities, quantum computing in early stages, and yet they're still burning fossil fuels for everyday transportation. Their development is wildly uneven. Agreed, Krell said, pulling up more data. Advanced medical technology alongside medieval social practices in some regions, space stations orbiting their planet, while some populations lack basic sanitation. It's as if they're developing in every possible direction, simultaneously. Vex finished, mandibles clicking rapidly as he processed this revelation. No wonder previous contact species couldn't predict them. They don't follow any recognizable technological progression path. Krell switched to footage of human social interactions, which proved even more perplexing. Look at these behavioral patterns. Individuals risking their lives to save strangers, then minutes later engaging in violence over trivial resource disputes. The footage showed humans in all their contradictory glory. Building hospitals while developing weapons, creating beautiful art while destroying their environment, displaying both incredible cruelty and breathtaking compassion, often within the same societal groups. Their unpredictability extends to everything they do, Vex noted, increasingly disturbed. They possess no unified direction, no centralized control. They're just chaotic. Perhaps that's their strength, Krell suggested, pulling up comparison charts. Every other spacefaring species develops along predictable patterns. Central authority establishes priorities. Resources are allocated accordingly. Technology advances in logical sequence. But humans. Vex trailed off, watching footage of a small human deliberately placing itself in danger to rescue a non-sentient creature from a hazard. Humans try everything at once, Krell finished. 1,000 approaches to the same problem. Most fail, but the successes are unlike anything we would conceive. Vex turned to another screen showing military exercises. Their combat doctrine is equally chaotic. Look at these tactical simulations. They deliberately practice for scenarios with minimal resources, overwhelming odds, complete communication failure. They train to function in worst-case situations as standard procedure. Commander, Krell said, his voice suddenly dropping to a whisper as he stared at a new data set. The probe detected faint artificial signals originating from beyond their solar system. Signals directed toward Earth. Vex froze. Meaning? Meaning, Krell replied gravely. Humans are not alone in their awareness of the galaxy. Something else has been watching them too. Something that doesn't care about the quarantine order. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Concordat, hummed with tension. Located in the hollowed-out core of a dead star, the ultimate secure location, the chamber was only used for matters of extreme importance. Today, it held just 5 beings: the High Admirals representing each quadrant of the galaxy, and Commander Vex. "You stand before this council," began Admiral Zora, her crystalline form glittering menacingly under the chamber's lights, "accused of violating a Class 1 quarantine order, endangering your vessel, and potentially exposing the location of a Concordat ship to the human species." Her voice resonated with the natural harmonic vibrations of her silicon-based biology. "How do you plead?" Vex stood ramrod straight, professional to the end. "Guilty of violating the quarantine, Admirals, but with critical new information that justifies my actions." Admiral Pozar, an ancient gaseous entity contained within an ornate environmental suit, swirled with agitation. "Nothing justifies disregarding a Supreme Council directive. Do you have any conception of what you've risked?" "With respect," Vex countered, his voice steady despite the crushing pressure of standing before the most powerful beings in the galaxy, "I discovered evidence that the quarantine has already been breached by someone else." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Admiral Fraz, whose amphibious features remained partially obscured by a respirator mask, leaned forward. "Explain, Vex. Explain." Vex activated the holographic projector he'd been permitted to bring. "Our probe detected signals aimed at Earth from an unknown source beyond their system. Someone has been communicating with humans, but more concerning is what else we found." The hologram displayed the data Krell had compiled, showing graphs of human technological development. "Humans have made technological leaps inconsistent with their natural development curve," Vex explained, "particularly in quantum physics, propulsion systems, and artificial intelligence. These advances appeared suddenly, approximately 20 years ago, without the normal research precursors." "You're suggesting technology transfer," stated Admiral Dressy, the insectoid representative from the Gamma Quadrant. "Someone is deliberately accelerating human development," Vex confirmed. "And based on the progression rate, humans will develop independent interstellar travel within the next decade. When that happens, the quarantine becomes meaningless." The admirals exchanged troubled glances, communicating in the silent language of those who had carried the burden of command for centuries. "Did your probe detect the source of these transmissions?" Admiral Zora asked finally. "Not with certainty," Vex admitted, "but signal characteristics suggest proximate origin." The chamber erupted in alarmed exclamations.